Welcome, folks, to this episode of the Cyber Folks Experience, and I am your host, Gene. In this episode, we're going to talk about the industries that are adopting artificial intelligence the fastest and why these industry leaders are both excited and concerned. So, we're going to get into it right after this. Well, folks, thanks for joining us here on this episode. It is a beautiful day in the neighborhood. I'm actually struggling with some allergies today. Got a little redness in my eye, if you could see that there. But that's neither here nor there. So I want to get right into it. Excuse me. So I'm sure by now that most of you know, or at least have heard about artificial intelligence and how it's being rapidly deployed in almost every area of our lives. And there's a few things I have with me that I'm going to bring to your attention here. You know, there have been several high-profile individuals discussing their concerns of artificial intelligence as it relates to the moral, social, legislative, and the way we as human beings will interact with this new technology or emerging technology, really. In fact, we've had those discussions right here on the program as well. So we're going to start our conversation by looking at some of the industries that are leading the way in artificial intelligence adoption, as well as some of the benefits and challenges that they're facing by adopting it. Now, I'm not in my normal studio today. I actually got out, so the lighting's going to be a little different. It's going to be probably a little bit challenging for us today, but I wanted to sort of take the show on the road. I like to get out every now and again and really just take advantage of different locations. So if I can make an adjustment here so you can see, well, I don't know how to do that. Actually, I do, I just don't want to. So found a nice, comfortable location where we can have this discussion. Been doing a lot of research. You'll see me refer to my tablet. Been reading articles on the matter as well, which will serve as our source material and where we'll be citing our information from. So if you're watching this program today, I'd encourage you to do your own research on this subject matter, do a lot of reading on the topic, because I know I have a lot of clients and individuals that I engage with that are expressing their concern about how to integrate this technology. First, they start out with whether or not they should even consider adopting this technology. I always say they should. And also how to do it and do it in an effective way. And so we're going to tailor our discussion around certain industries that are adopting technology and how it potentially affects not only business, but also the way that we are going to interact with it socially. And I just want to set up my little platform. I had all this set up and then I had to reset it up because things are always evolving and changing. And so bear with me as we do this. So one of the first industries that we're going to talk about, one that's near and dear to my heart, is healthcare. And artificial intelligence is being used to in healthcare to improve patient diagnosis, their treatment, and their care coordination. So, for example, AI-powered medical image systems can help doctors identify tumors or other abnormalities. more accurately. Now, I have I always like to talk about things that I that interest me and that I may take the time to utilize those tools to see how they work. And I always recommend people do that as well whenever we're talking about the adoption of new technology. And so I have been playing around with certain of the technological solutions that have been in the media, such as Chat GPT. And if you haven't played with that, I suggest you do. Also, Bard by Google, which is interesting because I use Bard for some solutions. And Bing, well, Chat GPT and Bing are integrated. And Bing is really one of my favorites. There are some, it presents a lot of opportunities and it can streamline some processes. But what I've seen in using it in some of my solutions in my personal life is there's a lack of level of accuracy when we start talking about how we want to use artificial intelligence. Like I have to go back and fact check what it's saying to me. And that's one of the concerns that I would have as far as adopting it in healthcare, because now you're dealing with human beings in their lives, right? One of the things that I will share with you is that healthcare was a it was an important component of my entrepreneur journey, because after leaving Wall Street, I ended up having a partnership with an investment bank to build an assisted living facility. And this was prior to the mass adoption of certain artificial intelligence solutions. And so my little company was sort of ahead of the curve in integrating technology to make the lives of elders easy. We were talking about smart watches back then. It was some rudimentary solutions as far as it came to smart watches were concerned. We were talking about smart beds and smart toilets, and my team and I, the architects, the um, construction crew, the my technology team, the guys in charge of operations and technology as well. Every team member and I had a discussion about the best way to integrate technology into assisted living facilities so that it will actually decrease those liabilities in those facilities, increase the response time of the medical care professionals, thereby reducing the accidental deaths or the way that they respond to seniors who may be having a medical emergency. And so I believe then, which would have been back in 2008, 2009, no, 2010, 2011, to where healthcare would actually start integrating technology to assist those medical professionals in the dissemination of some solutions to help them in reducing their response time, reducing, in one sense, increasing their capacity to assist more people without increasing the human toll of doing so. And so that would be the the opportunity that AI in healthcare presents, but also the challenge is that we still have to use our human brains to discern the accuracy of the very tool that we're using, if that makes sense. The other area to where artificial intelligence is being rapidly adopted is in another of my old industries, is finance. And so in the financial world, AI is being used to automate tasks, to improve risk management, and make better investment decisions. I got a little pushback on that. But for example, AI powered trading algorithms can help to identify trading opportunities and execute trades more quickly. Now, I will give it that artificial intelligence will be able to execute trades more quickly because this has been sort of the argument when we start talking about quantitative hedge funds, right? Those mathematical formulas and algorithms that have been created by individuals to sort of capitalize on um, market trends in the hopes of producing profitability. Um, but I believe that a machine is only good as a machine's output is only as good as what you put into it. And it is, you're going to keep hearing me say this over and over again. It's going to be a situation until machine learning becomes more mature. But it's going to be a situation where we, the human beings, are still going to have to rightly divide the information that AI is bringing to our attention, right? Because from what I see, the potential for liability can be huge, and then you have to ask the question of who then becomes liable, and so that would be a concern of mine. Um, and then retail, believe it or not, artificial intelligence is being integrated in retail. It's to personalize the customer experience, to improve inventory management, and to optimize pricing. Now, I typically don't do this on this show. I cite my sources, but I don't call them out by name. But I do want to refer you to the advertising section of the Wall Street Journal. And there was an article that was talking about how retail uh, stores are using Chat GPT, Midjourney, DALL-E 2, and other artificial intelligence tools to create advertising campaigns. And they're excited because it can save them time and money, but then it also introduces risk for agencies and clients. And I want to read a little bit of the article to you where it says that Zipcar had a new co-creator for its latest advertising campaign, artificial intelligence. Now, we'll say this. So when I read that article, I thought about the Cyber Folks experience. Is that if you see who my co-host is, you will see it's me, Gene Folks, as the host. I'm one of the hosts. My other host is artificial intelligence, right? So it's pretty interesting that we are reporting this the way it is. And so Zipcard actually enlisted the help of generative AI. Now, what generative AI is that it actually is used in a capacity to increase brand awareness based on a customer experience. So it kind of tailors it in a way to where you go, oh, tailored, individualized in a way you say, oh, that may be a brand that I want to affiliate with. That may be a brand that I want to have more um, uh, that I want to incorporate into my daily lives. That may be a brand that actually I'm attracted to. Now, I was on a webinar this morning to where they were having a discussion about generative AI, and this would really impact and affect your CMOs, right? And how they are able to create their strategic marketing plans for those organizations. Do you use AI to assist you in doing that, or does it become a challenge to where AI can do the job then of a CMO? And this is the question that we're going to get as as artificial intelligence moves from its infancy and moves more into an adolescence, and it starts maturing. And so what we'll say is that there is a uh, this so generative AI, and I want to go back over this, is a type of artificial intelligence that can create various types of content, including text, images, and audio, as well as video, right? So there is some artificial intelligence programs that I've been sort of playing around with, to where I can go in and tell it what type of promo or advertisement that I want to create for one of my shows or my program or my company, and it will create that video. Now, I would tell you that it's not perfect. I can go in and then add my own pieces to it, but then you there are challenges there that have yet to be flushed out, which then begs the question: do I need a marketing officer or an advertising department or someone focused on creating these um, brand strategy deployments for me when I have an artificial intelligence assistant? And I don't think that we've answered that question quite fully yet, because I do not believe that artificial intelligence is at that place. But this is when we talk about Zipcar, for example, um, where there was an ad firm called Supernatural that actually made the Zipcar ads, and it asked this AI tool to suggest occasions which would lead users to rent a zip car. That's fascinating when it comes to how we would use artificial intelligence, as I was saying a little bit earlier. And so this is just one of the many examples of the impact that generative AI is going to have on advertising and marketing and businesses. And why they are excited about it is because of what it can do for them, saving them, of course, time and money. And then they can put that, hopefully they can put that more in their operational overhead, which is maybe paying more salaries, or maybe expanding out their products and services to other institutions. And so that is one of the prime. Sorry for looking down on you guys, but that is one of the. I had to take care of something, but that is one of the challenging and interesting ways that advertising and marketing firms are using artificial intelligence. And here's the thing: when it comes to artificial intelligence and generative artificial intelligence, for a small business owner, it could be a really invaluable tool when you're trying to compete with your neighbor down the street, or if you're competing with a large organization, because one of the largest challenges to small businesses is access to resources. And you've heard me say this on this program and other interviews that I've been involved in, as well as in on our other program. Access to resources, it becomes a very vital um, part of whether or not a small business will will just survive, or if it will thrive. And so artificial intelligence, when properly integrated into a small business and then effectively deployed to its customers, can really expand a small business's reach, so much so that even a global reach, and to where it could present a unique set of challenges of being able to meet your fulfillment request if you have a product that is in high demand, right? And so that is one of the really most effective ways that I could see being a huge advantage when it comes to artificial intelligence. The the effects of artificial, now I just had this thought, the effects of artificial intelligence on organizational structure, and how do we measure key performance indicators of those employees that are engaged and involved in their particular um, vocation. How do you as a leader have these conversations and measure the effectiveness of your employees if we're using AI tools to enhance our job? How do you compensate your employees based on their ability to do their job, or based on their ability to do their job as assisted and incorporated with artificial with AI tools? I think that that's a question that as AI begins to and machine learning begins to mature, that we're going to be asking ourselves from a leadership standpoint, which is how do we manage to that? How do we um, adjust our leadership styles, expectations, and job requirements based on the integration of artificial intelligence into businesses across all SMEs to large enterprises, right? Small, mid-sized enterprises. That's something that we're going to have those discussions on um, at within our organizations and amongst organizations, right? Especially if you're a vendor to a larger organization. How do you do that? One of the other areas that I found to be fascinating was industries that AI is actually going to affect is going to be entertainment. Now, most of us would agree that Star Wars may not have been one of the most iconic films of all time without the integration of technology. Or Star Trek, pick your favorite one. If you're a Trekkie, great. Um, you can, you know, for a more relevant experience, you can just select a movie like Avatar. Like I just saw Avatar: Way of the Water. I can tell you, phenomenal, right? It's good concepts there too, as far as building avatars and then putting people within those avatars, which is an interesting reference that I make. I just made that connection and I did that. Or just choose one of your MCU movies, all of which have embraced technology. But that's not the only way that the entertainment industry is deploying technology. There have been some instances of studios using artificial intelligence to de-age an actor who played a younger version of that character, or if an actor has passed away in the middle of filming, they have used AI to create a doppelganger so that they could finish out um, that filming, and that raises a very interesting um, concern about artificial intelligence. Intelligence are the um, ethical and moral implications of when to use this technology. Do we then is it okay to use a doppelganger to have a celebrity pitch a certain brand, and if you do, uh, who owns that? Or if you use someone's voice to mouth an avatar, who owns that? All of a sudden now your voice becomes a property, and who owns that? Who owns the right to that? Who gets the revenue out of that? You or the studio? And I'm going to go back to my Wall Street Journal article where it says celebrities use AI to take control of their own images. Who owns those images? And I'll read this to you. This was by Patrick Coffey. I will give him credit for the article because it's his. Um, and one of his things is in using AI. One of the things he says is using AI generated duplicates. Brands can use stars in ways they never could before. I'll tell you a funny story. Um, we were scrolling through social media, and someone had sent me a one of those motivational speeches, right? And it was an older gentleman. He started talking, and the person that showed it to me said, "Oh, look at this old guy. He's talking." And I looked at him, and I'm like, "That's not a real person. That's an AI generated image that looks like a person." And when this person stopped to look at it, they were like, "Oh, you're right. That's not a real person." And I've seen some recent social media posts where you have models, these perfect models walking down a runway. And when you stop, it's like your eyes are playing a trick on you. And you're saying, that's not a real person. There's something within us to be able to differentiate between artificial and real, right? And I think that is where it becomes really very intriguing question to ask, because we're sort of creating in trying to solve one issue, we're creating all these others, which is typically what we as humans do, right? And so I want to finish reading the article. It says, with the rise of generative AI, digital replicas of famous faces have begun appearing online with greater frequency, often without the permission of their subjects. That's an important point to make, is that oftentimes you can grab an image, you can automate that image, and then you can make that image say whatever it wants to say. Some of these are apps that are even being put on our phones where I can take an image of myself and I can have myself singing a song, right? In a different voice. And someone can say, "Oh wow, Gene, I didn't know you could sing like that," right? Which I don't need to be artificially avatared, if you will, to do that. I would do that on my own. But when you look at the ethical and the moral piece of it, is like, is it deceptive? Because when you start using it, so our likeness now is being used against our permission in some cases for the benefit potentially of someone else. That to me, that would be a problem or an issue or a concern of mine. I'm not sure that I would want my likeness, my image, to be plugged in somewhere, where I wasn't. I think that we can go down that rabbit hole, if you follow where I'm going. With that will present quite a bit of challenges for a lot of different reasons, for a lot of different agencies. That's just pretty interesting. So can you imagine, right, that you have these marketing companies and you've done one marketing campaign for them, and then you sign this contract or agreement, and that contract agreement says they own your likeness. I signed a contract like that just prior to AI being as prevalent as it is. I've signed a contract like that. And then they take your likeness and they make you say what they want you to say. They pitch a brand that maybe you actually really use or you don't. Um, and then you have to. I mean, I guess at one point does it become misleading on a larger scale? At what point do do at what point does your image belong to you, and then it belongs to someone else, right? Like there's that line there. If you know what I'm saying, I'm not saying it exactly the way that I would like to, but at what point does your image not belong to you, right? That you who you are as a person does not belong to you. And I believe that a lot of celebrities are starting to address this issue, but I want to give you this issue because they are making deals with brands to put AI created duplicates of themselves into marketing campaigns, but they want to give themselves more control over their own likenesses and more latitude in the types of deals they can make. Brands, meanwhile, they use digital duplicates in ways they never could use the stars themselves, such as changing this, like I just said earlier, right? Changing the star's appearance to de-age them, having them perform feats the real celebrities never could, and holding conversations with customers. They get paid, but they don't have to turn up. Now think about that for a reason. Sorry to keep rocking back and forth, but imagine getting paid to have your likeness used, and you don't have to show up. Now I know what you're thinking. It'd be like, wait a minute, I'm going to get paid to go to work, but I don't have to show up for work. That's basically what we're saying. At what point is that going to be okay? I'm not so sure. Do you see the need for the legislation there and what that looks like? That I could have my doppelganger show up while I'm sitting on the beach doing something else? The questions that arise for me would be, what am I doing? What's my purpose? I think that becomes quite interesting when you put it that way, that you're going to get paid for doing something, but you don't have to show up. I think that's pretty interesting. Hmm, 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 basically what you're getting paid for. So what would happen is you would sit in the studio, then they would use a 3D scanner. They would take a rendering of you, take a few hours to do that, and then they would basically use your likeness, that likeness that they created in the studio of you, to push and promote their product. I'm not so sure if I haven't really thought about that yet. I have to really think that through, because that becomes somewhat challenging. But let's look at it this way. So let's say you're watching a football game, or and they're having these celebrity partnerships with, let's say, Nike. So how would that work in sports and entertainment, right? To where you have these celebrity players, and how do you know you're watching a real game unless you're at a real game? Or yeah, I don't know. I mean, it's just really interesting, because a lot of celebrities are trying to say, listen, we don't want to sign over control of our likeness to a studio that you can use any way you want to. And so now we're starting to go down this slippery slope of, well, is it more of a partnership in using my license, and how you're going to use that? Do I have say so in how you manage my license? And then the studio starts asking questions about, what are we compensating you for? It's for our license, is for your likeness. And I think it's going to be interesting in how we continue to deploy those issues. There's another piece, and I'm an avid reader. I like to read a lot, and let's take it down. Excuse me, I'm trying to clear my throat. I keep patting the mic. I apologize. There's another instance in where we are talking about social media. And a lot of you, most of us are on social media, right? And so a lot of us on social media are always looking for ways to stand out and be different on social media. I think that if you could imagine that we had replicas or duplicates of ourselves, doppelgangers, like I like to call them, and put that on social media, where they would push out a message, right? We're already cartooning ourselves or automating ourselves in a different way, even possibly using our voices to do that. I know in some instances I do that as well. I have to tell you that I use some artificial intelligence to enhance what I'm doing. Um, they're basically saying that you don't always have to be human to be believable. Hmm. And the subtitle of the article says that virtual influencers can be as equally credible as human influencers when making certain kinds of product endorsements, with study finds. That's, it's, and I'm sharing this with you guys because it is something that am really fascinated by when it comes to um, how we're going to integrate AI into not only just our marketing strategy, but as a business strategy, and as we continue to evolve as human beings, because we don't have a really good track record once we create something of it not getting out of control, getting out of hand. And once we create something, we can't uncreate it. I believe Warren Buffett said that, and I'll quote him on that because it resonates with me. So, for example, science recreated the nuclear bomb. We spent 30, 40 years in a Cold War thinking one person's going to blow up another, right? We can't uncreate nuclear resources, right? Nuclear power. We've tried to say, well, we're creating nuclear power because, we want to be able to be more energy efficient and independent. But then we bombed an entire country using nuclear power, and we have nuclear power weapons to where if everybody started pushing buttons, then humanity would look very different than it does today. With the advent of the internet, we it has gone someplace that none of us imagined it would go. Right? We talk about net neutrality, and then we talk about digital equality and all these different things. And so most of us are really walking around with a computer. Can you see that there? Oh, no, it's my background. Most of us are walking around with a computer in our pocket now, the ability to do so much more than we could have imagined at the time. I bring these things up because we don't have a really good track record of integrating technology in a way that the benefits outweigh the misuse of technology. And so here are some of the challenges and opportunities that I've noted based on our conversation and the effects that AI is having on business and society. And it wouldn't be complete without really exploring some of these challenges and opportunities it presents, right? So uh, AI has a potential to revolutionize a variety of industries more than we've mentioned here. There are some challenges that need to be addressed. One challenge is the lack of data. In order for AI to be effective, it needs to be trained on large data sets. However, many industries do not have access to the data that they need. So let me tell you how to get it, because I thought about this. So I'm part of a program with Google to where it's a marketing program. They'll ask me questions and I'll push a button. Did you watch this video? And I do that. Did you do this? So they're machine learning my buying patterns and habits, what I like and what I don't like. And then they're taking that information and then they're creating algorithms and models based on how I respond to certain things as a human being. I think where AI is lagging is I change from day to day, well, from hour to hour, day to day, and sometimes hour to hour, right? What I like at 9 o'clock this morning may not be what I'm going to like at 2 o'clock in the afternoon. And I think that's where the mystique of being a human being, AI may not be able to grasp that soul and the spirit piece. And I believe in that. And so, um, one of the other challenges, as I mentioned briefly before, is that of the ethical implications of AI. So, as you know, from the finance sector to healthcare to entertainment to some of the other industries that we did not mention in this episode, is is how do we effectively monitor AI as it becomes more powerful? We How do we ensure that it's being used in a responsible way? And as I mentioned, we don't have a really good track record of doing that, right? And so are going to. It's naive to think that we're not going to have bad actors that will misuse artificial intelligence to meet their own needs or objectives or goals. The question is, do we have a response to that? I think we can up to a point, but I just don't think that it's in its totality. I mean, so for example, they're saying that, well, AI should not be used to discriminate against people or to make decisions that could have negative consequences. Yet we know that most of the things that we've developed and created should have had those things, but they did, and they do. And AI will as well. I mean, just think about, some of the things in human history, like, now we're having book bannings and, racial discrimination and gender bias and, whatever those things are. Um, and so that becomes a challenge for us as we start looking at deploying AI to more and more people. And as artificial intelligence and machine learning starts maturing, what happens when it starts learning on its own and it can rewrite its own parameters and framework? Look, you say, well, that's just sci-fi. Well, 30 years ago, artificial intelligence was sci-fi too, right? And here we are. Just ask Alexa to play music for you, and she will, right? 30 years ago, that would be considered sci-fi. Heck, 20 years ago, be considered sci-fi. And here it is right now. So to say that artificial intelligence won't be able to go outside of its parameters and almost become sentient. Do you hear what I'm saying? Um, we don't know. And if you've been listening to some of the creators of artificial intelligence, they have said the same thing I'm saying right now is when asked a question, do you believe that artificial intelligence can become sentient, a living being? They said, we don't know. That's interesting, right? So I'm going to close with this. So, AI is still in its infancy. We have yet to identify its full potential or how humanity will be changed by its integration. There is wisdom in suggesting we deploy AI with caution and do so slowly, and perhaps even limit its effects in certain areas of our lives. To say AI will not have negative uses or to be used by bad actors is naive and dangerous. The question is, do we have contingencies in such cases? AI will only be as good or evil as the people creating it until it begins to think for itself. It becomes almost impossible to uncreate something that we've created. Well, folks, that's about it for me. I'm going to leave you with that thought. What do you think? What are some of your concerns on artificial intelligence? What do you guys think about this? Because it's important that you share your thoughts on the matter because it will affect each and every one of us as far as it relates to our lives, our businesses, where we go to work, what we have to learn. There are a lot of positive components to artificial intelligence and machine learning and how it will help us in ways that we at this moment can only imagine. But there are also um, areas that we should be concerned, deeply concerned about how far we allow artificial intelligence to integrate almost every area of our lives, right? And whether or not we can really call it um, in its maturity a separate living being in that sense. I think there's a lot of questions that have yet to be answered and that remain at this juncture unanswered, and things that need to be studied and considered before we determine whether or not we as humans are ready. The question is who determines, who makes the determination, who sets the parameters for what AI allows and doesn't allow. We can't even agree on things like gender or race or political ideologies. We're going to agree on something as potentially altering for generations to come. Who sets those parameters? Our elected officials or we the people? See, this is where artificial intelligence has a sort of unique perspective because we can either allow our elected officials to make these decisions for us and our governments make those decisions for us and then go back to more of a Cold War as far as artificial intelligence is concerned, or we the people can become more engaged in it and take a more active role in how AI is being adopted and affects our daily lives. Well, I hope you enjoyed this episode of the Cyber Folks Experience, and I hope that you will connect with us on social media and share your thoughts on how artificial intelligence may affect your social interactions as well as your businesses. And as always, we remain a clear signal in an often distorted world. Thank you for your time and attention, and we hope that you are enjoying your day and take a little time to um, assess information that's being presented to you to rightly discern its long term effects on you and the people that you care about. Take care.